Hi guys, welcome back to Super Math for You. This is Mr. Urrego, and today we're doing polynomial and rational inequalities. The idea is that we need to solve them, okay? How do we solve them? We need to find what values of x will satisfy this inequality. In order for me to do that, if you notice, these are two factors. If I multiply this factor times that factor, it's going to give me a big polynomial. So the first thing that I need to do once I factor, which I got the two factors already, is to make each factor equal to 0. I'm not going to consider this exponent, all right? I'm just going to get the factor, x minus 2 equal to 0, and the other one, x plus 3 equal to 0. From there, I got to find the values of x. I got to add 2 on this one, and my first x value is going to be x equals 2. And these are the zeros. In the other one, I'm going to do minus 3 minus 3. 3 is cancelled. And x equals to negative 3. Again, these are the zeros of my polynomial function. Let me show you real quick. So this is the graph. If I want to graph that polynomial function, this is what I get. Remember that I had x equals 2 and x equals negative 3. So those are the zeros. Now, when I say that my inequality has to be less than 0, what I'm looking for are the values in my graph that are below 0. All right, so that's the idea. Now, what I do now is I'm going to make a number line. All right, and I'll have 2 here, negative 3 there. First of all, if we notice, our inequality doesn't have an equal underneath. Therefore, I'm not including the value of negative 3 or the value of 2. I'm not including those values. All right. What we do now is, this is my number line. I want to check values that are less than negative 3. I want to check values between negative 3 and 2. And I want to check values that are greater than 2. All right. Just one. You don't have to check too many, just one value. And from there, we want to see which one satisfies that those values are less than 0. So from this side, let's pretend that I'm going to use negative 4. And between negative 3 and 2, let's do 0, which is easier. And between something that's greater than 2, I'm going to check 3. All right, so those are the values that I'm going to check. Where? In my original inequality. So I'm going to plug that in. Let's try negative 4. I have negative 4 minus 2 squared, negative 4 plus 3. Is that less than 0? So right now you notice that's going to be negative 6 squared, and negative 4 plus 3 is going to be negative 1, less than 0. Now I don't need to solve this. I just want to know if this is going to be less than 0 or not. So if this is going to be a huge number, I don't do it. But I know that any negative number to second power, this is going to be a positive number, times a negative number is going to be a negative number. And any negative number is less than 0. Okay? This side is negative infinity, and this side is positive infinity, right? So my first interval is going to be from negative infinity all the way to negative 3. Parentheses because I'm not including. This parenthesis is because I'm not including the value of 3. All right? The next interval is going to be between negative 3 and 2. Parentheses because I'm not including the values. And the last interval is going to be between 2 to positive infinity. Okay? Infinity, remember, infinity always has parentheses. Always. The negative 3, the negative 3, the 2, the 2. I'm using parentheses because my inequality doesn't have an equal underneath. If my inequality had an equal underneath, then I'll be using brackets. Okay, just real quick, we'll do a problem in a minute. Now, I checked negative 4, and it came out to be, and you know what, that was for demonstration purposes. Let me erase this, and let me do the math. Okay, so negative 6 squared is going to be positive 36 times negative 1. 36 times negative 1 is negative 36. Is negative 36 less than 0? True. Okay, so this is true. So far, this is a part of my answer. This interval satisfies this inequality. All right, let's check the same thing with the 0. I'll write my inequality, and I'm going to check the 0. 0 minus 2 square, 0 plus 3 less than 0. 0 minus 2 is negative 2 square, 0 plus 3 is 3. Negative 2 squared is 4, times 3 is 12. Is 12 less than 0? So this is false. So this doesn't satisfy my inequality. The last one. Now I'm going to try 3. 3 minus 2 squared, 3 plus 3. 3 minus 2 is 1. 3 plus 3 is 6. 1 squared is 1 times 6 is 6. Is 6 less than 0? False. Okay? So neither this interval, no values, all right? You don't have to try, negative 2, negative 1, 1, 2. You don't have to. You just need to try one value within this and this value. All right? That's my interval. If one of them doesn't work, none of them are going to work. Okay? So in this case, the only one that satisfied my inequality was the first interval, so that's my answer. That's my answer for this inequality. Now, I said, I'm looking for values that are less than 0 for my inequality. Let's check the graph. In my graph, what's going to satisfy these values are any values that are below the x-axis. Let's check the graph. This is the graph for that function. This is negative 3. This is 2, right? So those are the zeros from the function. That's where my graph is touching the x-axis, okay? Now I said, where's my graph below the x-axis? Because remember, f of x here, f of x is 0 right there. Below is less than 0. Remember, my inequality wants something that is below less than 0. So the piece of the graph that is below my x-axis, remember that I have an arrow here. These graphs keep going all the way down and to the left, all the way from negative infinity to negative 3, because that's where I'm touching the x-axis. So if you have the graph, you just want to know what values are below the x-axis. If your inequality is asking you for anything greater than 0, then it's going to be above your x-axis. Okay, if you notice, I can get the interval from my graph or algebraically. Let's do one more. Now I'm giving you something that is not in factor form. So the first thing that I need to do is to factor this polynomial. So within this and this, I have an x squared as a common factor. Parenthesis, x cubed divided by x squared is x minus 5x divided by x squared is 5. From here, remember, I need to make each one of them equal to 0. X minus 5 equal to 0. Technically, I can do square root, x equals 0. That's my first 0. And from here is plus 5, and my other 0 is 5. I draw my number line. 1 is here, 1 is there. Okay, I check my inequality. I don't have an equal underneath, so I'm not including the 5 nor the 0. All right, I'm going to choose a value to the left. It could be negative 1, negative 2, negative 3, any value. I want to check any value between the 0 and the 5. I'm going to choose 1, make it simple. And something that is greater than 5, let's choose with 6. That goes in my inequality. I'm going to check negative 1. Negative 1 cubed minus 5. Negative 1 cubed, negative 1 minus 5. Negative 1 squared gives me 1. Negative 1, negative 5 times 1 is negative 5. Is negative 6 greater than 0? False. That's not satisfying my inequality, so this is false. By the way, let's write the intervals. This comes from negative infinity. This goes to positive infinity. So my first interval is from negative infinity all the way to 0. parentheses, because I don't have an equal underneath. Keep that in mind. My next interval comes from 0 all the way to 5, and the last interval is from 5 all the way to positive infinity. I said my first interval came out to be false. Let's check 1. 1 cubed minus 5 times 1 square. 1 square. 1 times, 5 times 1 is 5. 1 minus 4 minus 5 is negative 4. Is negative 4 greater than 0? That's false. So this interval is false. Let's try 6. 6 cubed minus 5 times 6 square. 6 cubed, 216 minus 5 times 6 squared, which is 36. 216 minus 180 gives me 36. Is 36 greater than 0? So this interval is my answer. This is the only one that satisfies my inequality. Okay, it has to be greater than 0, which is any positive number. Let's look at the graph. What interval does this is greater than 0? Look at your graph. Where's your graph above the x-axis greater than 0? Here, right? And if you notice, this is 0 and this is 5, which are my zeros. Let's go back to the problem. You see my zeros? 0 and 5. Okay, those are the x-indices on your graph. So where's my graph above the x-axis? From 5 to positive infinity. So this is my answer. Remember, parentheses, because there's no equal. There's no equal underneath the inequality symbol. Please like the video. That's going to help a lot with the algorithm. And subscribe to the channel. More math coming your way. Thank you again, and till the next time. Bye-bye.